Welcome back to Incremental, the continuous improvement podcast. I'm Devin Bedoni,
And I'm Uriel Eisen.
and this is our episode where we're going to go over shop improvements specifically, more in depth.
Yeah, so we have changed our format a little bit to do 2 episodes per week. And the goal there is to give a little bit more space in talking about our shop improvements and our weekly improvements or daily improvements from the week. Give a little bit more space to talk about what we noticed that led to the improvement, and then kind of the how we came to the particular improvement, and just a little bit more of the process, because the individual improvements to anyone else are really a lot less interesting than the reasoning behind it. And so what we were finding is in our previous format, it was just really hard to fit it all in a way that, and what the result was basically that we were essentially rattling off improvements.
Pew, pew, pew.
Yeah. And I think it's important to bring people along for that journey and like to see. I think it's really helpful to see, because it's like it doesn't happen all at once, and they are just little changes that you can make every day.
It's pretty key because, like I'm looking at one that I wrote down here and I'm like, it was literally a 5-minute thing.
Yeah.
In and of itself, it's kind of like whatever, explaining kind of the deeper issue, and what we're trying to solve. It starts to make a little more sense.
Yeah. And as we've talked about, it's become a bit of a theme, but the only things we do in the day are really small actions.
Yeah.
And so the only things we can really improve are kind of often small, seemingly, but the net effect is big.
Yeah. One big one that we did. So we, as discussed, use Airtable to manage our jobs. The way it's set up right now, it has the capacity to attach photos of setups or photos of anything, really.
Yeah.
And as they say, pictures worth 1,000 words. And I've had difficulty making my setup descriptions when I'm setting up a job, or handing off a job to be set up, to be fully explicit about every little detail. It's kind of amazing how many little details there ends up actually being,
right,
when it's not standardized. So anyway, it has the ability to attach a photo. I was finding that I wasn't doing it. Like once the setup was complete, I wasn't taking a photograph because the app on the phone is a little bit awkward to use, and making sure you're like at the right record. A record in Airtable, a record is like a unit of information. Right record, right job, right place. And then to actually upload sometimes took a little while. And so you're like standing there with your phone, like, is this done?
Interesting.
So the other morning I was working at my computer and just noticed there's a webcam on my laptop, screen. And I was like, oh, I wonder if I can just auto do that.
Oh, nice.
So I just tried it and took a photo of myself, but through the app. It was very easy and fast.
Oh, nice.
And so when I got to work, there was a webcam on our 3D printer that we weren't using. And so I just pulled it off and stuck it on one of the machine station computers and tested it. Same, super smooth, super easy. And so I bought webcams for all of the machine computers. It was very cheap.
Yeah.
So now when we do a setup, and I'm working on an SOP for when we go from our yellow to green indicator on the machine to say this is ready to run.
Yeah.
One of the things is going to be taking a photograph of the setup with
that's awesome,
with unfinished parts in it, so like raw stock.
Yep.
And then with finished parts, so beginning and end of cycle.
Okay.
Basically. And we thought we would also maybe start doing photos of any oddball tooling that gets used. So like if there's some, like we have some weird like reduced neck extra reach mills that we use, once every 5 months or something, just as a memory aid for whoever's doing the setup. So that was, I feel like, a huge win, and is really going to decrease the friction. Now the issue is that in our job setups, all of the attachments are, there's like one dump for any attachment to a
Okay.
job. So it's like, that includes G code, that includes, it doesn't include, the print is separate, but like basically photographs,
gotcha.
G code, all
Yeah.
that stuff just gets mixed into this like
Right.
mishmash. So we need to separate out and have a different spot for setup photos specifically, which is actually, now that I'm saying it, would take me 5 minutes. So I should just do that.
Yeah. So this is sort of analogous to, in saying that you popped two peas right into the mic and it, you hear it. And I was sort of wondering, should I have interrupted you like production to fix the problem and order a pop, what's it called? Pop filter?
Oh, yeah.
Because I have one, you don't. And just like in the shop, it's like, do you interrupt? And do we do it immediately? Do we stop recording, order it, and then go back to recording? Probably not, but this has to get logged to improve our quality.
Yeah.
I'm going to write it up here.
Okay.
Someone wrote in asking, like, it would be cool to see a new process be improved.
Yeah.
I think this is that, right? It's like noting when there's an issue and actually addressing the issue and not just, I don't know,
in real time.
But then it gets really disruptive.
It is. Yeah. Oh,
actually, like if I had interrupted your thought there, I was worried you wouldn't be able to sort of jump back in and complete it. I mean, not that you wouldn't be able to, but it just seemed
my friend Han, who you've met, had this really cool idea for dealing with interruptions.
Okay.
And he said, I'm not sure specifically how they do it in his shop, but they have a hat they call the dunce hat, and you put it on when you're doing a setup, and that means don't interrupt me.
I like that.
And then you can take it off, obviously, and be like, okay, it's time to interrupt. But I think
I like that. I think on the Business of Machining, they talked, this may be going back a little while, about a vest that they saw at like another shop. I'm forgetting the name of the shop.
Okay.
I like the hat more. A vest seems a little annoying to get in and out of.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
you might need to each have your own hat.
The idea is the same.
The idea is the same. I mean, it can be many different things. But that's something I want to implement because.
Don't interrupt me, hat.
Yeah.
I like how they call it the dunce hat. That's nice because it suggests, I think what's nice about it is it's not sort of elevating yourself as like, I'm too important to be interrupted. It's like, I'm too dumb to be interrupted. Which is
I definitely defer to letting the employees interrupt whenever they need to, because I want to keep them
right.
I want to make sure they have what they need. But yeah, it can be problematic.
I think it's problematic for two reasons. One is just the immediate, like losing your train of thought and maybe forgetting to do something that
is critical,
really needed to happen. The other is that I think you are modeling what is expected to some degree, right? And like it would be really good for everyone to see that it's totally okay to be like, don't interrupt me now.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
And then lastly, we sort of talked about this on the episode from Wednesday. This is Friday.
Yeah.
Of being of sort of logging information issues, like information management issues of having to ask each other questions in general.
Yeah.
I worked at a company, Final Frontier Design, designing spacesuits.
Oh yeah.
I think I've spoken about this before, but their work environment was so awesome. People would come in the morning. I mean, it was very friendly, very nice, but like it would be dead silent till lunch, not out of any sort of enforcement, but because everyone was like so engrossed in their work.
Wow.
Which was actually, it was really cool. I haven't been anywhere like that. And I think one of the things that they did well, which actually now that I'm saying this, I need to do better, is if I had a question and I walked into one of their offices, I'd normally stand there for 2 to 3 minutes while they sort of completed what they were currently doing. And the result was, after doing that a few times, I realized it wasn't actually that useful. So I'd start just writing down the issues I was having. Obviously, if it was something that I couldn't move forward without, I'd walk over, but it sort of reduced how much I did that, because I think what I do in my shop is I'm very friendly when someone asks a question, because I don't want them to feel like they shouldn't ask questions.
Yeah.
But I think maybe that's the wrong thing, because it shouldn't be
And it needs to be both, because you also don't want to.
No, obviously friendly, but
No, that. But I mean, like,
stay friendly.
asking questions is also really important, because it's like
Yes.
how you learn.
And also with some of these machines, it's like, please ask the question instead of just trying to push forward.
Yeah. So it is critical, but I think it's just like adding some structure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Done set. I like it.
I added some little bit of, this is the one that was like, seems very minor, but we put that restaurant order tag thing up on our job board. They're not magnets, the marbles, because our job tags are very narrow. Sometimes they would just fall out if there was only one.
Okay.
So I just like folded up a ton of paper and taped it up inside there so that there's less room. And so now when there's a single tag, because sometimes we pull one to put on stock, we pull another to put on a tray, we pull another, and there's just one left, and it just doesn't have enough force to, like, then we just end up falling out. We'd have to go digging back behind our like drill indexes to find the ones that were gone. So I just like added all this material there, and now it stays.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
And that took you
8 minutes or something.
8 minutes.
Probably could have been faster now that I think about other ways I could have done it, but
let's just say 8 minutes. Basically free supplies.
Yeah.
And then you're saving. How frequently would that happen? Like once a week?
No, like every other day.
Oh shit. Yeah. That's a big improvement. Yeah.
Yeah. Mostly it was just the annoyance of like,
well, it's also time.
Yeah.
I mean, digging around.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's super frustrating.
And like, maybe not the annoyance so much as that it might like disincentivize you from actually like doing the thing that needs to be done with the tag, because you can't find it. And you're like, oh, maybe I need to print another one. And occasionally they would get completely lost because they would go behind our tool cabinet, which you can't move without a pallet stack or pallet jack.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Nice.
Quorum. I didn't do anything besides print the magnetic bases. Got the indicator lights up on our brother machines.
Very cool.
Which is awesome. I had mentioned a couple episodes ago that you could use Cat5 wire. Don't use Cat5 wire.
Okay.
It's solid. It's not stranded. It's very brittle.
Makes sense.
So we tried it and they all broke. Like at the terminations to the connections, like during like install.
Wow.
I think Cat6 is stranded, or maybe you can get it stranded. But what I ordered was blanking on exactly what it was called. It was from Automation Direct. I think it was like 24 volt communications cable or something.
Okay.
But it was nicer stuff. It was five conductor, which I think is what we needed. Actually, I think we only needed 4 conductor, but I got 5. And they're great. It's like really cool. Basically when you turn the machine on, or you hit reset, everything's blank.
Okay.
When it's running a program, it's green. When it hits an M30, it's yellow.
Okay.
And then it holds yellow until you start it again or hit reset. And if there's an alarm, it's red.
Oh, nice.
And the cool thing is actually on the R450, I wasn't quite sure how I was going to handle this. When it's running a program, it's green. When the pallet is finished but not reloaded, it's green and yellow.
Oh.
So you can know that you need to reload the outside pallet.
Okay.
And then when you hit that as a go, then it's just green again.
So sorry, if it's running a program, but you haven't yet reloaded the next pallet, one, it will add a yellow light.
It adds a yellow.
That's very nice.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. We did not get the lathe one installed yet because the lathe has been really busy.
And so just what did you notice that led you to get those lights? Or what problems were you seeing?
Just that everybody in the shop, when it was really busy and all machines were running, we weren't noticing when a machine had stopped.
Okay, so you'd have downtime.
Yeah.
And now you are noticing more?
I've only been back really for a day with it, but I think it's a much faster check.
Right, you just glance around the room.
Yeah. And there was, you can see that the cycle start lights, but
Okay.
not from everywhere in the room. Sometimes they're blocked by a random little thing.
And on the R450, that's probably not an indicator.
It has a separate
Oh, it does.
start button
Oh, nice.
for the palette,
Okay.
like with palette ready button,
Mhm.
and that is green or blank, depending on what its state is.
Okay.
But yeah, same. It's hard to see.
Nice.
So I think it's going to be better. It's just a lot easier to just do a quick glance while you're doing something else and not have to stop what you're doing and actually walk around.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think it'll be good. Should I keep running, or we do a couple of yours real quick?
I'll throw in a couple.
Yeah.
So we had an issue with our cam, the jaws, the vice jaws that hold our cam.
Yeah.
We throw the word around, the cam word around quite a bit.
The little flippy doodle.
Yeah, but not computer aided machining.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Yeah. So the physical product we make, one of the parts was getting deformed in Op2, so it was getting crushed a little bit, and so then the buckle was sort of binding up, which was pretty bad. And so this is a whole thing of how to kind of manage. So this is a quality reject. So then it's sort of like, okay, we should fix it and make sure it never happens again, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the TPS, it's sort of like stop everything and make sure it never happens ever again.
Yeah.
And previously we'd had this issue, and I basically just machined new jaws with the same inherent problem.
Yeah.
And the inherent problem is basically the part geometry that gets clamped is so small that the PSI, I think, exceeds the maximum PSI of the aluminum. And so over time,
the jaw
deforms a little bit every time we clamp it. And after a few thousand parts, it's deformed enough to no longer support the part properly.
Yeah.
So I did a redesign. The result was we were down for about a day and a half, not producing parts. And it was a bad move. It solved the problem. It's much better now. I'm glad I did it. But in thinking about it, I think a redesign has inherent risk, right? I didn't know that it would work. I had a pretty good hunch that I had a better approach, that I could machine the approach well and all that.
Sure.
But I think so right now our soft jaws are not Kanban in any way. And we don't have a real hard, well-developed system for how those parts get remade. And they do have to get remade, and they can get damaged. Like if you clamp down on parts with chips in there or something, like sometimes you just have to remake the soft jaws.
Are you talking about for the blanks or for the specific soft jaws per part?
Any of it. Maybe both. Maybe we definitely have some blanks that are sawn and a very well documented program that makes a new set of soft jaws, right? Just like as you reduce, and this is talked about a lot in all these books, but as you reduce inventory, you need production stability, right? You need to have a very reliable process that will produce good parts when you need them, because you're decreasing your buffers, right? Yeah. You're decreasing like, oh, we had an issue on this machine. You're decreasing your downtime. And so like there's some pretty well laid out math. I think it's I forget if it's the Toyota Way. I'm forgetting which book it was. I don't think it was that one. Anyway, on what happens if people try to achieve single piece flow without any of the prerequisites.
Oh yeah.
Which is massive downtime.
Yeah. It's
right.
Like, it's catastrophic.
Yeah. You basically go from like, I forget, like 85% uptime or 90% uptime to like 90% downtime.
Yeah.
Until you have, and this is where like preventative maintenance comes in. Like you need to know that the system you've built delivers parts.
Yeah.
And right now, if our soft jaws go out of spec, what I should have done is it immediately triggers machining new ones. And we have a proven out process and a proven out, program that makes our current soft jaws. And I should not have taken that as an opportunity to do a redesign.
But you should have done it in tandem.
I think I should have done it once I think that should have been essentially an improvement put into the improvement part of the day, not into the production part of the day.
Uh-huh.
I don't know exactly how to think about it. The flip side is the reality is I'm just not a robot. And so sometimes like lighting a fire under your ass is like, which isn't a good answer, but like, do you know what I mean? It's like,
I think it's a symptom of being small and scrappy a little bit.
yeah, I think it's just like disorganized. Like there's so
well,
many demands on your time
yeah,
that it's like,
it's
you need it to be urgent.
it's great to be like, we should do this and we should also do this in tandem. It's also good to recognize your limitations on labor and be like, I literally only have time for one. So I'm going to do the one that in the long run will be superior.
Yeah.
It's good.
That's casting a nicer light on it.
Well, I think it's good to notate this and be like, this is not how we should proceed in the future.
Yeah.
Having said that, it probably was the right choice for you right now.
Yeah. Maybe. I think I have bad habits because I'm used to working alone. And so it's like, it's all my time. And so if it's my time doing R&D versus my time on assembly, what's the difference? But now if like a bunch of people show up to the shop expecting there to be work to do, and there just isn't because I made some weird decision yesterday to like change how we're going to make parts instead of doing that change offline. So that was sort of, I don't have a specific improvement. I mean, I guess the specific improvement is now the jaws to make that part are way better. So I think it will eliminate this issue from happening again. So that's very exciting because it's a very insidious quality control issue because you can't, sometimes it only happens after like 30 reps. And so like, if you just check the product, like click it once, you won't find it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Now that we've gotten more attuned to it, there's a slight difference in drag. I think what's happening is like galling essentially, and that just like is a runaway train once it starts. So that was a whole thing. My brother was in town, Alicia. He did a paint audit, which was really fun. So basically watched me paint and wrote out like a page and a half of notes of issues.
It's amazing that you have a brother that's into that kind of stuff. I'm like, damn, so lucky.
Tons of fun. And my
brother would rather stab himself in the eye.
I have another brother who probably falls into that camp. So it was pretty cool because I don't know, just new eyes, and came up with a lot of really cool ideas. He's also not really familiar with painting, which is sort of an advantage because to me, there's some stuff that is how you do it.
Right.
And he was like, why are you doing it this way? And I was like, well, I know the answer, but let me think on that pretty hard. One, maybe the most fun one, just because it's out of the box and definitely like just spatial rearrangement of the different parts. Cause like I was walking past the oven every time to my mix station, but I only put parts in the oven at the end. But I mix paint 4 times in that cycle. So like, those need to be switched. A fun one was, right now I put a cup on the scale because we mix by weight. Yeah. And then I move it to the mixing, there's like a magnetic mixer that we use. So he recommended putting the magnetic mixer on the scale.
Oh, that makes sense.
So now we don't have to move that back and forth, which is nice. So that was really fun. It's making me think, like we talked about this a while ago, but just visiting each other's shops and just like standing there and doing it. I think there's like huge value in it. Yeah. And I haven't addressed all, like it's a page and a half but we'll get there. And it's nice to kind of be able to go to it and just look at the big ones.
Yeah. It is funny when you can do like stacking the mixer on top of the scale and you're like, I just made a much more expensive piece of equipment by stacking a piece of equipment on another piece of equipment.
That's true. Yeah, but it's pretty nice. This is a funny one. Back to the sort of in line with redesigning the fixture. Yeah. In production time. I was noticing that I was blowing off the parts before painting them. Yeah. Immediately before painting them. Like I'd pick up a part and I'd see a speck on it. And so I'd blow it off. Right. And so I'd sort of
with an air gun.
Actually, I've been using the paint gun, just half trigger pull, lets airflow.
Oh,
And it's less air than a full-on
yeah.
air gun, and so it doesn't reorient the parts, which is nice.
Oh,
So I was like, well, the person racking the parts, if I'm blowing them off anyway, again, right before paint, the person racking the parts shouldn't be blowing them off. So we eliminated a whole blow off. So before, the person racking the parts would then blow them off before hanging them up
yeah.
in the sort of ready to paint position. So we eliminated that.
So now
Then,
you just blow them all off in station.
yes,
Uh-huh.
which seemed great. Then, out of the next batch, out of 64 parts we painted, 62 were rejects. Yeah. So we are now back to blowing them off twice. That was an expensive lesson. And it's sort of reinforcing this idea of running small tests
Uh-huh.
and learning about ideas.
Yeah.
And before just rolling them out as the new standard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, anyway, we have a lot of examples of that. Like we were talking about moving to lower quantity Kanban.
Yeah.
Right? Like sort of applying that to one part, just seeing how it works with one part instead of being like, there's this temptation to just be like, all right, wait, like a new shiny system. Let's do this full send.
Awesome.
Yeah. And it takes some like, I don't know if it's humility. Just like, I don't know, like learning that you're dumb, kind of. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not you're dumb. It's just like, I think I anyway, overestimate my ability to predict the future, basically.
I think that's part of it. I think there's also just the, well, for myself anyway, I think there's always in the back of my head the very clear knowledge of how dear time is, and not wanting to do it twice.
Right. You're like, all right, let's just get it done.
Let's just do it. Which, as we just discussed, not the way to go.
Yeah. Especially as you're moving in this direction, I think it becomes more and more critical that things function.
Yeah.
And so to throw a huge wild card in there of like totally new untested system rolled out company wide is pretty bold.
Yeah.
There's this idea of like phases of learning or phases of knowing, which is like going from unconsciously incompetent to consciously incompetent to unconsciously competent to consciously competent.
Interesting.
Sort of the year, 4 years of college or whatever. You can hope that those are the phases you move through.
Uh-huh.
Debatable, but yeah. And so I think the problem is often there's just like, you don't know what you don't know. And so you're solving all these problems of a thing you're intimately familiar with, but moving into a space that you're now. Yeah. And often you become consciously incompetent is the problem. And it's a problem when you've just spent a bunch of time implementing it in a really critical function.
This is a little bit of a tangent, but I've been working on our new house on this foundation. And it's just like very interesting to be doing something. I guess I'm just realizing that I've gotten kind of used to being pretty competent in the things I do on a daily basis.
Okay.
And moving into something where I'm like capable, but not really like not an expert by any stretch. And just being like, wow, this is hard. I'm really not good at this. Someone else would be doing this so much faster. Is interesting. And
that is
humbling.
Interesting. It makes me wonder if like I've noticed as I get older, a more willingness to pay someone else to do stuff for me. And I think there is an aspect of my time becoming more scarce, but I wonder if there's also an aspect of me having a deeper knowledge, a deeper level of competence in something. And so I can see how much better someone else would be.
It's put into relief.
Right. Maybe like when you're young, you're kind of not great at anything. So it's like, how much better could someone else be? I don't know. Maybe.
It's true. Yeah. It's humbling. We also updated a gripper program. It's a repeat job. And while I was gone, there was a significant crash that destroyed the fingers and the vice jaws, gripper
Wow.
fingers and vice jaws. We had been talking about remaking them for a while because they were getting worn.
The fingers.
The vice jaws.
Okay. Gotcha.
Well, both actually. They were getting worn. We were having little like adjustment issues.
Okay.
Anyway, so we had to do sort of a full redo, and because we'd switched gripper finger blank styles, and we didn't have any of the old style anymore, we decided to jump to using 3D printed fingers, which so far was pretty cool. But there have been some weird things where occasionally they just kind of seem to hang on to a part.
Do you think they're getting gummy?
I don't know. Yeah.
Like with your coolant?
I should double check.
Huh.
I think they're still in the machine. That, or it might be like a burr on the part sticking into the plastic.
True. Right.
I'm not exactly sure what the issue is.
Something I've been thinking about, unless you want to. Very much related.
Yeah, go for it.
3D printing, I've done it with a few other designs. Like, I don't know if you remember that material hopper I sort of prototyped that had inserted steel pins.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about basically making small reliefs in the gripper fingers. So that like an 1/8 inch hardened pin gets inserted. And just a tiny amount of the pin is the thing that's hitting the part.
Oh, that's a cool idea.
Because I feel like it would be, the beauty of 3D printing is just how hands-off it is.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you can do a little bit of post work that is not set up, like if we have a standard length pin from McMaster, that just gets press fit in and we work out the clearances for that to be a nice press fit, I just feel like it could be really quick way of hardening the faces.
Yeah, I like that. It wouldn't work with this particular finger because it's a stepped finger for 3 different parts. But yeah,
sure, yeah, yeah. Another nice trick that I'll mention for 3D printing that's been working great is 3D printing in holes for screws, and the screws are just to reinforce in directions we want more strength.
Oh, and so actually like tapping them?
No, I just drive in a wood screw.
Oh,
like I just put in like a 3-inch wood screw, and I even like 3D print in the countersink for the head, so it's all sunk. And then you just drive it in, like for thin cross section areas that you're worried are going to snap or have snapped. Yeah, you can just it's just like super quick.
Interesting,
kind of fun.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah,
you don't even have to tap it.
Yeah, you just drive it right in, done. Yeah,
I love it.
It no longer works as a mechanical fuse.
Right.
So,
yeah. This morning I was wondering, so I've been printing the fingers basically as like a big wedge shape. So they're widest where they attach to the gripper, and then they narrow down to the tip.
Gotcha.
And I wondered about actually like relieving a big oval in the middle.
For compliance or just to give it weak?
Yeah, more for the latter, but maybe for compliance. I don't know.
A little squish.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it just seems like there's a lot of potential there. Well, actually, no. The original thought I had was to speed up the print.
Yeah. Sometimes I find that adding like cutaways, because now you're 3D. Like often, if you look at the parameters, it's like 3 boundary layers and then like 15% infill.
Yeah, it doesn't end up working.
It doesn't often end up saving time, especially on small parts.
Interesting,
but.
Yeah. So we were having issues with, so what happened? We remade the fingers and the jaws. We printed the fingers, recut the jaws. We also ended up having to retram our rotary and some other stuff. Anyway.
Okay.
Don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, that's painful. Damn.
Everything was fine in the end. So then they're these like cylindrical parts. They're about 0.2 inch diameter.
Okay.
Probably like, I don't know, 5/8 long. And so they drop into this little cavity in the jaw. And we were having an issue with them just kind of like jamming. Like, I think because of the diameter to length ratio, they weren't falling all the way to the bottom.
Yeah.
So they just kind of like cock and sit. And then the vise would close, and then it would cut these parts like way too short.
Damn.
And out of a batch of, I think it's 64 The first run had 27 rejects.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Better than my paint, but still bad.
We used to get like, so before this was happening sometimes, and we get a handful.
Gotcha.
Still higher than what we wanted, but it was kind of like tolerable until
I know the feeling.
Yeah.
Until it's not.
Not good, but we were tolerating it. But 27 out of 64 is really bad. So I just did a little trick, which I've done a couple times for different parts, where I retracted the gripper, the spindle, and then just made the vise rock back and forth on the rotary.
Just a little jiggle.
Just a little jiggle, and it works amazingly well to get
That's awesome.
The part to seat. After that, we had...
You have an M code to turn off the brake?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I did that once and had the brake going, and I was like, that is painfully slow.
Yeah. No, without the brake, it's just like chick, 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 and it's done.
Very nice.
So after that, we had a couple that...
Are you hearing a little static?
Yeah, I think it might be a phone interference. We had a few... So for whatever reason, some of them weren't letting go of the gripper fingers. So we'd have a few that didn't go into the vise at all and just fell off, like 2 or 3 per round.
In the chip pan, basically.
Yeah. But then of the ones that did get cut, we'd had 0 rejects.
Oh, nice.
So that was cool. And the ones
so next
that
is
fell
just
down,
dealing with the rejects.
What's that?
Now it's just a matter of dealing with why those parts aren't getting loaded.
Yeah.
And they're getting hung up in the gripper fingers?
It appears that way.
Huh.
I only saw it happen like once or twice. Like
if
actually,
it is a burr, I wonder if you could add relief and 3D print new jaws so that there just wasn't material for the burr to press into. I don't know.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Maybe.
Yeah. I ordered a Freddy.
It's very nice.
Spending money. The easiest improvements to make.
Yep. I'm jealous. I have a quote in my inbox, and I keep feeling like, I have 1 machine. You have 4 machines.
4, yeah.
Yeah. Feels. Anyway,
it's a thing.
That's awesome.
We were having a lot of taper wash filter alarms. They're clogging like regularly, and the sumps were just filling up. And then we've been doing. We're busier than we've ever been by a decent margin. And we run that Blazer 735 clear coolant, and I've been noticing like this like little gray film inside the machine, which I think is just like aluminum dust that's in the coolant.
Interesting.
I don't think that's good.
Go out on a limb here and say.
So, for the sake of everyone's happiness, for the sake of the machines, I finally went ahead and did it.
Very cool.
Been talking about it for years, and it seemed like it was finally time. And I think it'll be actually a huge improvement.
I have to say, the back of our machine needs to be cleaned, and I've been putting it off for about 3 weeks because it just is so unpleasant. You're like covered in coolant and little chips, and then they like fall in your shoes, and then you're picking them out of your socks. It's like really not fun.
It's not fun. Yeah, and if you clean out the sump without one of these, you end up losing a lot of coolant. Which whatever, coolant's like, I don't care about the cost so much, but then you end up with a bunch of coolant mixed with chips that you have to do something with.
Interesting.
And the scrap yard doesn't like it when a bunch of coolant comes out with your chips.
Totally.
They're pretty unhappy.
Because they pay you by the pound.
They pay you by the pound. They also just, all of a sudden, there's a bunch of coolant spilled everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Not ideal.
Right.
So that seems like almost the bigger issue is just like making sure your chips that do come out of the sump, which are often very fine if they've fallen through the screen, are dry. And if like they take a long time to drain out, it's kind of like sand. Like there's so much surface area.
Right.
Has been my experience.
And in a Freddy, it deals with that?
It's got the filter bag and the chip pan. So I think you can suck it in there and then like let them sit and drain overnight.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and it's also just pulling vacuum.
I guess it's pulling air through it.
Yeah. So I think it does well, we'll see. We'll see what it does.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about that. That jogged my memory actually on something we didn't quite touch on last episode, but I've really been noticing how much time we waste cleaning out machines. And it's one of those things that I've kind of taken for granted forever. It's just be like, it's important to clean your machines. Like
Do you mean like spraying out the inside of the cabinet
Yeah.
or? Okay. Right.
And with the R450, it's very notable. There's so many little nooks and crannies that catch chips.
Interesting.
And there's 2 tables with this wall that catches chips, and the inside just doesn't. I mean, it does a decent job flushing. Like, it doesn't not flush to a point where it causes a problem with running.
Okay.
But there is a lot of chips in there that sort of need to be dealt with. And it's kind of striking to me how few, myself included, how few people take the time to run specialized washdown lines to specific points.
Yeah.
And so I think that's pretty high on my list for the next short while, is to really update the flushing inside of our machines so that that's less of a thing. Like, ideally, day ends. I mean, you run after people leave.
Right.
The day ends approaches, we stop, we clean out the machines. And that's kind of like easily a half hour probably per day that we could be making parts. And instead we're cleaning machines. It seems kind of ridiculous. So I think I just need to order a bunch of fittings and pipe and lock line and start making some specialized, like, targeted hoses.
I know, I think Saunders was 3D printing some
little wedges and stuff.
Yeah, to just, I don't know if that's.
I don't think those are the kind of issues we're having.
Okay.
Like, they're not
just stuck to like all the sidewalls and
the sidewalls. There's a couple spots where, like, on the R450, the X-axis is attached to the casting, and the way covers for it there's like maybe a half-inch gap at the end of the way cover between that and the wall.
So that's all full,
and it just just packs there. And they come with like one hose that you can either spray forward onto the way covers, or you can spray back onto the back of the cabinet. But you're kind of like choosing the lesser of 2 evils, and whichever one isn't getting sprayed fills up. And then they have a pretty good wash down all around the bottom of the entire casting.
Okay.
But then there's some little spots where things hang up.
So the issue I've had, and I'm curious to hear how you do this, because I've been thinking about a similar thing.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about manual valves to at least make it fast. But basically, if I run all the wash down, it just sucks my sump dry. Actually, now that I'm saying that, I think it's because I have filter paper in the back. So it's not draining back in fast enough.
It's probably also that you have a lot of chips in the sump taking up volume. I've found that to be a thing.
I have filter paper in the back area.
Yeah.
And so they don't really accumulate. Like, I've checked. They don't really accumulate down there. But
it's just not flowing back
through. It doesn't flow back through.
Which is so what do you do? You have your wash down turned off?
No, I wash down at the end of every cycle. For like 3 seconds.
Gotcha.
And so that's just a good balance.
And
it's pretty good, but I do wash it out at the end of, or at the beginning of the day or something, just to get all the chips off of things. Yeah.
So anyway, that's something I think needs to be tackled relatively soon.
Yeah. 30 minutes out of an 8-hour day is,
I think that's cumulative of like, and sometimes you can let one machine run while you start on the other. The S700s are not too bad. Unless we're doing a job with like a lot of removal.
Okay.
There's a few things. One of the machines I took out Patrick from Swerve Drive Specialties when he was visiting that little shop get together. He mentioned that he'd pulled the lock line out of all of his washdowns.
Okay.
So there's just holes in those hoses atop. And I did that because they were clogged, and then I didn't put them back in. And you lose like being able to target. But it moves a lot more coolant. And so I found that to be pretty good. I've only done it in one machine so far. And you end up with a little more on the walls because it doesn't spray the walls quite as much.
Okay.
But
it washes everything else.
Less builds up in the base.
They do make different lock line tips. I wonder if it would be worth looking at some of the ones that are sort of wide, but more opening.
Yeah. I might do that on like a couple of the spots.
Nice.
I've also thought about air blast maybe. Especially for the table. Like,
I've heard that can be a bad idea, like chip fans.
Yeah.
I haven't looked under my table in the S1000, but I don't know how sealed off all the moving bits are.
It's not sealed at all.
Okay, yeah. So I've heard that things can kind of blow up onto your ball screws and stuff like that and just cause other issues.
Yeah.
Interesting. So one piece I forgot to mention on blowing off our parts is one of our improvements was 3D printing a manifold to make a foot pedal blow off station.
Oh, cool.
Which needs a V2, but is quite good.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think about the total volume of air that the number of holes I put in the manifold necessitated, and then I'm running like 3/8 line to it, so it's just not nearly enough volume.
So the manifold is like multiple outlets, so you spray off the whole part in one go.
Yeah, it's a U shape, and then you sort of if you see photos of our racks on Instagram, you sort of just like move them vertically.
Yeah.
Through the thing while pressing the pedal, and there's air nozzles that blow in straight in, and then there's also ones that blow slightly up and slightly down to try to get the front and backs of things as they move through.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it's pretty good. Not enough volume, so I need to upgrade the air service to that, like just thicker line running to it, and then also I think decrease the number of holes.
Do you think it's the line and not the valve?
It's a good question. I mean, it's all probably cumulative back pressure, but yeah, you're probably right. I don't know which is the bigger factor, but I may fix one and then end up needing the other. Yeah, we are getting tight on time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we can just kick these over or...
My last one is quick. One cool thing about using Airtable to manage jobs is how adjustable and adaptable it is compared to other ERP systems.
Yeah.
So we have our little sticker job tags, and it was becoming notable that there was some information on there that was needed, mainly just like job quantity.
Okay.
Or part quantity. We're finding like, we go to saw the part, we have the tag, it says what the material is, it says what the job is and the part is, but it doesn't say how many you need. So you got to go back into the computer and look up the quantity.
Makes sense.
So we just added a field for quantity for the tag. So now that's included. And it's been cool to kind of like just see what is the critical information we need on this little teeny traveler.
Interesting.
Because you don't need everything, but there is some stuff that's very key.
Right. And are those are universal at this point? The information on each traveler
is the same.
Is the same going to saw stock and going to...
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess we could make different ones.
I mean, if you don't need to.
Not as of yet.
Yeah. Better to standardize. Nice. The past week, we've also done in our shop, a lot of SOPs and point and calls. The point and calls have become really key and really useful. If you don't know what they are, go look them up. It's kind of cool. Out of the Japanese railroad, I want to say.
That's you mentioned.
Do it out loud, and both me and Sam both found individually that we were doing them out loud, and that it was more useful to literally be standing there talking to yourself and pointing and calling. And it's just like, it just feels... I don't know if you have this. Maybe I have a mental problem. I feel like sometimes in your head, like a bunch of ideas are all happening at once. And so they can be jumbled, or like somehow it makes it more clear whether I did something or not, I think, a little bit. And just like you come out of it with a little bit more confidence.
Interesting.
So, yep. So that's been great. And the SOPs have become really clear that we need more SOPs everywhere.
Yeah.
In just having more people in the shop making improvements, and also just in terms of running good experiments of a standardized working method that everyone's doing the same way. Yeah. And then when we make updates of those, get propagated.
Yeah. Cool. Right on. Well, thank you again to everybody for listening. Hit us up with questions, comments, suggestions.
Absolutely. You can find me at austere_manufacturing on Instagram.
You can find me at Lychen, LICHEN _MFG on Instagram.
If you need parts made, send Devin an email.
Talk to me.
And if you need buckles made,
talk to Ariel.
Talk to me.
Or really, actually, don't talk to him. Just place an order on his website.
Yeah. Anyway.
And find us at Incremental CI on Instagram. And we will see y'all next week.
Absolutely.